You are not here to bind love to you. You are not here to possess a soul like a trophy. You are here to bless the ones you meet, and bless them again if they must leave. Then comes a moment in your life, silent at first, almost unnoticeable, when the old ways of loving no longer satisfy you. You no longer want love that binds you. You no longer want affection that suffocates your becoming. You no longer crave to be needed to feel worthy. You ache for something purer, freer, more terrifyingly alive. You long to love and to be loved without the heavy chains of attachment. You want to walk beside someone, not because you cannot live without them, but because it is more beautiful to share the path. You want to be chosen freely, not clung to out of fear. You want to hold someone's hand without grasping for their soul. And in this moment, when the hunger for possession falls away and the yearning for freedom arises, you are standing at the threshold Carl Jung spoke of, the threshold where real love can finally begin. Today we will walk through that threshold together, because if you stay with me, you will not only understand why love has often felt like a battlefield inside your chest. You will awaken to a new way of loving, a way that blesses rather than binds, a way that transforms rather than traps. You will discover the forces inside you, ancient and unconscious, that have sabotaged your longing for real connection. You will meet the shadow. You will confront the faces of the Anima and Animus, and you will learn how to heal, how to see, and how to love without losing yourself. If a part of you already feels the quiet trembling of recognition, subscribe. Stay close. We are building a sanctuary for souls who are ready to love without chains. Carl Jung, the Swiss depth psychologist who charted the unseen territories of the soul, taught that love is not merely an emotion between two people. It is an alchemical process, a sacred transformation of the inner and outer worlds. But love cannot flourish where possession rules, and without confronting the hidden forces within us, the projections, the shadows, the forgotten archetypes, we will mistake our own inner hunger for genuine love. Jung showed us the hidden architecture of our relationships. He showed us that the soul must first become conscious of its own darkness before it can love in the light. And so today, we follow his footsteps into the hidden labyrinth within ourselves, where the real work of love begins. By the end of this journey, you will not only understand how to love someone without attachment, you will understand yourself. The forces within you that have loved blindly, clung desperately, and feared abandonment in ways you could barely name. And you will leave not just knowing the theory, but carrying the seeds of a new way of being in your chest, a way of loving that sets both yourself and others free. Most people, though they sing the songs of love, are not loving another soul. They are loving a projection, a fragile dream cast over the other's face. Possession begins the moment we confuse another human being with an answer to our own emptiness. We cling not to who they are, but to who we imagine they could be for us. And at the heart of this confusion, Jung revealed two powerful forces moving silently behind the scenes, the Anima and the Animus. The Anima, Jung taught, is the unconscious feminine image within a man's soul. It is the embodiment of feeling, intuition, mystery, connection to life and soul. When unintegrated, the Anima is projected outward. So a man falls not in love with a woman, but with his own buried emotional life mirrored in her eyes. The Animus, conversely, is the unconscious masculine image within a woman's soul. It carries the energies of reason, assertiveness, direction, and will. When unintegrated, the Animus is projected outward. So a woman falls not in love with a man, but with her own unclaimed inner authority reflected back at her. Thus, most early love is not meeting another person. It is meeting yourself in disguise. You fall in love with the part of you that you abandoned long ago, the intuitive tenderness you buried, the courageous voice you silenced, and you seek it desperately in the arms of another. And when they fail to embody your missing pieces perfectly, you feel betrayed. You believe love has failed. But the tragedy is this: you were never truly seeing them. You were seeing your anima. You were seeing your animus. You were loving your own unlived life. If these words are awakening something inside you, a memory you have not yet named, subscribe and stay. You are not alone. And yet, even beyond the dreams of the anima and animus, there is a darker force, older, deeper, more hidden, a force that clutches at our hearts even when we try to love freely, a force that twists love into fear. It is time to meet it. And beneath even the anima and animus projections lurks another figure, darker and even more powerful, the shadow. The shadow, Jung taught, is composed of all the parts of ourselves we refuse to see: our fear, our rage, our neediness, our shame. Everything we rejected to survive in the world, everything we disowned to appear good or lovable, was cast into the shadow. And the shadow does not disappear by being ignored. It moves through us in secret, twisting our love into attachment, turning tenderness into control, turning intimacy into fear of abandonment. Every time you cling to someone in terror, every time you demand they complete you, every time you panic when they seek freedom, you are not only reacting to them, you are wrestling with the abandoned parts of yourself. You are battling your own shadow. So if you have loved and lost, if you have clung and grieved, if you have felt the silent shame of needing someone more than they needed you, know this: it was never just about them. It was about you. It was about the unloved parts of your own soul, desperately seeking a home outside yourself. But the miracle, the breathtaking miracle, is this: you can bring those parts home. You can reclaim what was lost. You can stop projecting, stop clinging, stop collapsing yourself in the name of love. You can learn to love from wholeness, not from hunger. And that journey, the journey of real love, begins not with another. It begins within you. In the next breath, we will step even deeper into the sacred healing, the reparenting of your abandoned child, the reclamation of your forgotten sovereignty, and the creation of love that breathes instead of binds. Stay close, because the soul remembers the way, and you are already on the path. Before you can love without attachment, you must return to the place inside you where love first broke. You must meet the child who still weeps in your unconscious, the child who learned that love must be earned, that presence can vanish without warning, that tenderness can turn into abandonment without explanation. Carl Jung taught that the psyche carries the wounds of childhood not as memories, but as living structures, as patterns, as reflexes, as silent commandments hidden in the dark waters of the unconscious. Without healing, you will find yourself loving not from your present self, but from the wounded child you once were. Every fear of losing them will not be the adult speaking. It will be the child, begging not to be left behind again. Every panic at their distance will not be the soul speaking. It will be the shadow of your abandoned self, screaming silently for rescue. And so you must turn inward, not to fight this wounded one, but to embrace them. You must sit beside the frightened child within you and whisper the words they have waited up our time to hear. You are already loved. You are already safe. No one else's departure can destroy you. Until you cradle the parts of yourself you once exiled, you will continue to seek their resurrection through the bodies and promises of others. You will continue to bind those you love, trying to make them answer a question that only you can answer. Am I enough? If these words touch a place inside you that language cannot name, subscribe. Stay close. There is more waiting for you on this path of remembering. But even inner healing is not enough. To love someone without attachment, you must honor the sacred distance between souls. Most people imagine love as a consuming fire, burning away all boundaries, fusing two beings into one. But Jung knew that true love is not fusion. It is relation, a sacred dance across a holy space that must never be erased. Each soul must remain whole, distinct, free. Without space, love suffocates. Without freedom, love decays into resentment or control. Sacred distance is the recognition that the beloved is not yours. They are their own being, mysterious, unknowable, sovereign. You may walk beside them. You may witness their unfolding. You may bless their path, but you cannot own them. You cannot collapse their boundaries to soothe your fears. You cannot demand they become your missing half. The paradox is brutal and beautiful. The more freely you allow someone to be themselves, the more deeply they can choose you. Not from fear, not from guilt, but from freedom, the only soil where love can truly grow. Projection dies in the presence of sacred distance. When you stop demanding that someone fulfill your anima or animus dreams, when you stop trying to turn them into your savior, your mother, your hero, your lost twin, you finally see them for who they are. A soul, flawed, changing, free. And when you love the real soul without trying to possess, fix, or complete them, you are no longer clinging to a fantasy. You are standing in the fierce, holy light of reality. This is where love becomes not a chain, but a flame. A light that illuminates both souls without burning them to ash. But knowing this is not enough. Knowledge is easy. Transformation is sacred labor. To truly live this way, to truly love without attachment, you must engage in daily rituals of remembrance, healing, witnessing, centering, surrendering. And in the next breath, we will step into the practices Jung's wisdom inspires. The living disciplines that turn this vision from poetry into blood and breath. Because you are not here to merely understand love. You are here to become it. Stay. The work and the miracle begins now. There are no shortcuts to real love. No instant awakenings. No sudden salvations. The transformation from attachment to freedom, from clinging to blessing, from fear to soul fire is not a single choice, but a sacred way of walking. It is a daily unfolding, a ritual not of the mind alone, but of the heart, the body, the breath. Carl Jung showed us the forces that bind us, the unconscious projections, the unclaimed shadows. But he also offered, hidden between his words, the map to a freer, fuller life. Today we unfold that map, not as theory, but as living practice. If you feel your soul ready to cross the threshold, subscribe. Walk with us. This sanctuary was built for souls like yours. The first ritual is the healing of the inner child. You must become the parent your soul once needed. The voice of calm when abandonment echoes, the hand of gentleness when fear tightens your chest. When the hunger for attachment arises, when you feel the ancient panic surge because they are distant, slow to reply, or choosing solitude over your presence, you must not lash outward. You must turn inward. You must find the trembling child within and whisper, "You are not being abandoned. You are not dying. You are safe here inside me." Each time you comfort the abandoned self within you, you loosen the chains of your unconscious past. You stop making the beloved responsible for your old wounds. You stop demanding that they mother you, father you, rescue you. And in that self-rescue, you become capable of seeing them, not as a savior, but as a sovereign soul beside your own. The second ritual is the practice of seeing through your projections. Whenever fascination grips you, whenever longing blinds you, whenever you feel you cannot live without someone, pause. Ask yourself, am I seeing the soul before me? Or am I seeing my anima, my animus, my lost self wrapped in their image? To love another is to allow them the terrifying right to be different than your dream. To love another is to bless them even when they disappoint your fantasy. To love another is to stop casting your internal poverty onto their skin. Projection cannot survive conscious seeing. Each time you reclaim your projections, you are pulling back the scattered pieces of your soul. Each time you say, This longing is mine to heal, not theirs to fulfill. You become less a beggar at the door of love and more a giver of sacred freedom. The third ritual is the unshakable art of self-centering. When you love without attachment, you do not lose your footing in the presence of desire. You do not betray your own needs, boundaries, or voice just to maintain connection. You remain standing, whole and luminous, even as you offer your hand. You do not plead. You do not collapse. You do not barter your authenticity for affection. Here I am, your soul says, complete even in longing, alive even in loving, free even in choosing you. This is the core of sovereign love. This is the love that transforms without consuming. This is the love that survives change, distance, even endings, because it is rooted not in possession, but in presence. The final ritual is the cultivation of sacred solitude. You must become not merely tolerant of being alone, you must become enchanted by it. You must build a life that feels full to your fingertips, even when no hand is holding yours. You must dance in your own empty rooms, whisper your own name into the dark, and learn to hear music in the silence. Carl Jung taught that the self, the true, whole self, emerges not in noise, but in solitude. Loneliness is not the absence of others. Loneliness is the absence of self-communication. When you can speak with your own soul in the stillness, you are never alone. And from this place, this radiant sanctuary of enoughness, you can love without clinging, because you will no longer love to survive. You will love to bless. You will no longer seek salvation in another's arms. You will carry salvation in your own breath. And so, through these daily rituals, through inner healing, conscious seeing, sovereign centering, and holy solitude, you will become the one thing you have longed to find. A soul capable of loving without fear. A heart capable of giving without need. A being capable of blessing the beloved without demanding they stay. But the final secret, the final miracle Jung hinted at, is still to come. Because when you love this way, something even greater awakens inside you. Something that transforms not just your relationships, but your entire life. Stay close. Because in the next breath, we step into the final revelation, where love is not survival, but soul fire. When you have healed the child inside you, when you have witnessed and reclaimed your projections, when you have held your center in the fires of longing, when you have learned to dance alone in your own empty rooms, something extraordinary happens. Love ceases to be a transaction. It ceases to be a survival tactic. It ceases to be a desperate clutching at the vanishing horizon of another soul. It becomes a blessing. It becomes a consecration of freedom. It becomes not a chain to bind another to you, but a bridge upon which both souls can meet and rest, and then part if they must, without bitterness, without collapse, without fear. This is the real miracle of loving without attachment. You are no longer destroyed by their leaving. You are no longer completed by their staying. You are transformed by their presence, and they by yours. And no matter what happens, no matter who stays or who goes, you remain whole. You remain radiant. You remain alive. Because love was never meant to be a cage. Love was meant to be an alchemy. A meeting of souls where both are transformed and neither is imprisoned. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Not fused, not consumed, not lost, transformed. You are not here to bind love to you. You are not here to possess a soul like a trophy. You are here to be changed by love. To brush against the wildness of another's becoming and allow it to ignite your own. You are here to offer the gift of your soul's wholeness without begging for theirs in return. You are here to bless the ones you meet, and bless them again if they must leave, because true love is never lost. It is only completed. And so I leave you with this truth. The ones you love are not yours to keep. They are only yours to honor. You do not own their loyalty. You do not own their path. You do not own their choice to stay or go. You are only asked to witness, to cherish, to bless. And if you can do that, if you can love with open hands and open heart, you will know a love so vast, so sacred, so free, that it will live inside you long after every goodbye. Because real love does not vanish when possession ends. It only begins. If a part of your soul awakened today, if something ancient inside you stirred and remembered what real love feels like, do not let it fade. Subscribe. Stay. We are building a sanctuary for souls learning to love without chains. I am walking this path with you, and I will meet you there, where love no longer binds, but sets both souls ablaze.